This is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Tav Shin Nun Beit, which means the end of, like this year, the end of 1991, not 1991. And so that means it was, what, 32 years ago. It is relevant to this week's Torah portion, Parshat Vayigash. Parshat Vayigash, as we said before, is depicting the I say the scene, the I think, let's say what's a good word for it, the climactic scene between the confrontation of Yehuda and Yosef. Yosef, unbeknownst to his brothers, has become the king of Egypt, king of the world. And the brothers are now standing in front of him in trepidation. He can do whatever he wants to with them. They're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, who knows? And Yosef is about to take the youngest brother into imprisonment. He devised a whole trick to falsely accuse his brother, his little brother, of stealing his cup, stealing his magic cup. Anyway, so the brothers are now standing in front of Yosef, and they don't know what to do. They're just at the end of their mind. They figured this is the end of the whole picture, the whole the end of the family of Yaakov, and the end of the Jewish people, and they have no idea that Yosef is their brother. And also Yehuda musters up courage and he confronts Yosef, and he says, "Listen, you better let my brother go. Better let my brother go." Okay, so the Rebbe is going to learn a lot of things from this. We're going to see. Also, this comes right before a fast day. The fast day is the 10th day of Tevet, the 10th day of this month, 10 days from today. And this is commemorating the beginning of the destruction of the temples. First temples, eventually said, okay. Dover Pamim Rabos, it was said many times, Shakol and Yanim, that everything Amasuparim b'Torah, all the things which are spoken about in the Torah, and the Jewish Bible is called Torah. The word Torah means teaching, hora'ah. Mechilim, in them, hora'ot nitzchiot, they have eternal lessons for each Jew, ulachlal Yisrael, and all the Jews for all time. Now, the Jews are here to educate the whole world. So if there's a lesson to the Jewish people, then through them it comes to the whole world. Right? We can see that the Jewish people are a tremendous influence on mankind. Not necessarily that the Jews that invent the bow and arrow or the wheel or something like that, but they did bring to the world ultimate values. That's the whole essence of the Jewish people. That God told them what is good and what's bad. Huh? What is good and what's bad? What difference does it mean how genius you are and how many wheels you can make or whatever it is? You can do what the Nazis just did 70 years ago. Use all their genius and all their intelligence and all their advancements and etc. to destroy the whole world, at least to try. Right? Bring death and destruction to millions, 50 million people. How many people they killed? And so that's what the Jewish people are. The Jewish people come, and that's one of the reasons for anti-Semitism. There's other reasons also, but it says when God gave the Torah at Sinai, there came Sinai l'umot ha'olam. Sinai is Mount Sinai, and Sinai means hatred. Because the Jews came to tell the world, you can't do what you want to and be right. You can do what you want, but you can't. There is right and wrong, and it could be that your whole life is wrong. So what? What happens if a person's life is wrong? What's the big deal? So he just so the answer is that if your life is wrong, it means that you fooled yourself. Huh? You fooled yourself totally. You could have done something meaningful, and you even convinced yourself that there is nothing meaningful. Just life is but a dream, which is basically the whole Nazi thing and communist thing and everything like that. That just do whatever you want to. There's no right or wrong or point to anything. There's nothing more real than what is right here, and what's right here is not real. So says the Rebbe, no, not. The Torah comes to put reality into the world. The Torah comes to put meaning into the world. The Torah comes to put absolute values in the world, not arbitrary values. Absolute values. And not only does the Torah in general, but every single detail of the Torah comes to teach us eternal lessons, how to make life real. Because, let's just take a simple example. I mean, now in the world is this whole thing of devaluating life, devaluating family, devaluating society, devaluating. No, there's all these things they teach the kids now in schools, all the sexual deprivations and things like that, which you have the opposite. With the result of them is you don't give birth to children. There's no more children, right? The whole sexual drive is just for yourself, which that's a tremendous lie. A person will never experience the true love. True love. All the love he's got is just depending on what makes him feel good. True love, a love of parents to a children, of children to a parents. That's a true love. You can't have any. Okay. Anyway, so the Torah comes. That's just a simple example. This is a teaching, a general. So the teaching, the Torah is teachings, and every word, every idea, for all time, for every person, and etc., for every single Jew in the world. And the Jews are here. We're the chosen people. We're chosen to tell the non-Jews how much God loves them, and He cares about them, and He creates them, and He enlivens them. And He definitely answers all prayers. So they don't have to pray to people or to things like that. God really cares about the world, and especially about all humanity that's in the world. And the more humans, the better. Kamo came, also we can see, Benogea, the Parshas Shavua, the Torah, the portion of the week in the Torah that you have to live now. By Yigash, I love Yehuda, that Yehuda approached Yosef. Shemimeno Yishna, from it there is a tremendous important teaching, Hamavhira v'notenet lahavin, which clarifies and explains the token of of every single Jew now in these last moments of exile, and that we are right immediately preceding the true redemption, like we spent so many times talking about. Okay, what are we going to learn from this week's Torah portion? We're going to see. And I just want to tell you in one short word, it is courage. Yosef, Yehuda was not limited by anything. He even defied Yosef. That's what it says, Vayigash. Okay, we'll talk about it. Let's go. Vashkafa Rishon, at the first glance, we can see the connection, Vayigash of Yehuda, with the future redemption, where in the Haftorah of this Shabbat, which the Haftorah usually talks about some topic which is mentioned in our Torah portion, Bo Medubar, Orot Ichud, uniting Yehuda and Yosef. Yehuda is Malchut, kingship, the lowest of the 10 Sfirot. I'm sorry, no. Okay. Malchut, the kingship of Yehuda and the kingship of Yosef in the future. Right? I told you about that a little bit with Yerovam ben Nevat. It says in the future there's only going to be one king on the earth. We'll see. Let's see how there are two now. Okay, what does it say? This is a prophecy from Ezekiel. Ezekiel, this week's Torah, Haftorah of Ezekiel. What does God say? God says to Ezekiel, take one stick and write on it the words Yehuda. And take another stick and write on it for Yosef. God tells Ezekiel, and put them one next to the other. They should become one stick. Two sticks, put them together as though they are one. This is what God said. Behold, I take the Jewish people from the nations that they are gathered there, that they went there. I'm sorry. And I will gather them all together misaviv. And I will make them for goy echad, to one nation. And one king will be for all of them. But David Avdi and King David, my servant, Nasi Lahem, will be a leader for them forever. And all of the nations will know that I am God. The same God that took the Jews out of Egypt is going to gather all the Jews somehow or other from all the world. Okay, now when did the Jews get scattered? The Jews got scattered. The 10 tribes, Yosef, they got scattered before the first destruction. The first temple was destroyed. Like about 150 years before the first temple was destroyed, as there came King, Shalmaneser or whatever, he came and he conquered the 10 nations. And since then, they're scattered all over the world. We have no idea where they are. And there's all these different theories about who the 10 tribes were. Some people say all the people of England, some the American Indians, some people say this. Everybody thinks they're one of the 10 tribes. Okay. In the future, this will all be revealed, and they will all come back to the land of Israel. How this is going to be, I have absolutely no idea how this can possibly be. No possibility, because you have to remember, the 10 tribes, they were exiled like 2,800 years ago, something like that. It's a long time, 2,800 years. 2,800 years they were all exiled. This is before the oral Torah was written down. So these people have no idea what it means intermarriage, what it means proper divorce. There's a lot of laws which are only revealed. How exactly these 10 tribes, how they kept their identity. And there's all sorts of fakers that have popped up in the meantime, right? We're the real Jews. And so it's so confusing, the whole thing, but don't worry about it. Moshiach is going to figure the whole thing out, and I'll gather all the Jews. So Ezekiel said, I'll gather all the 10 Jews together, all the 10 tribes together, and together with Yehuda and Benjamin, and they'll all be Shimon, they'll all be gathered together, and they'll all be gathered to the holy land, and everyone will see that I am God. In addition to the Haftorah, that this week's Haftorah, Mevatet, it expresses just a connection to the redemption. But ein mekach limud, we can't learn from this, from the whole actual service of the Jewish people, what we're supposed to do. It says what God is going to do. He's going to gather together Yosef and Yehuda together. That's what God's going to do. What are we supposed to do? Just sit around and wait? Says the Rebbe, good idea. Sitting around and wait is good. The Rambam says you have to wait for Mashiach, no doubt about it. But the Rebbe says, but Chassidut comes and tells us we have to wait actively, not wait passively. Not only passively, you have to wait passively also, right? So there's things you can't do. What are we going to do? God is going to gather all everyone together. But meanwhile, we have to do what we can. What can we do? Let's see. This also, we have to have an explanation and the connection with the Haftorah that we talked about from Yechezkel of joining Yosef and Yehuda. Exactly the opposite. By Yigashel of Yehuda, it says that Yehuda went to Yosef. How does that hint at the future redemption? That Yehuda, he was below, he was the prisoner, and he begged and pleaded and threatened and everything to Yosef. Yosef was the king. This is exactly the opposite of what's going to be in the future redemption. The future redemption says that King David is going to be the top. David Avdi Malchut, he's going to be the king. Shahari Ba'agashash Yehuda, Yosef, when Yehuda approached Yosef in this Torah portion, this is stressed how Yosef, he was the king. He was the the ruler. He was the second of the king. He was the viceroy, whatever you want to call it. I guess roy means king, and viceroy means the sister, like the vice president. Yehuda zakuk alav. Yehuda needed Yosef. The future redemption, Yehuda is going to be the king, not Yosef. And Yosef is going to come gather to him. But here in our Torah portion, it's exactly the opposite. So how can we learn from this to the future redemption? Yehuda, he needed Yosef. He had to go to Yosef. Yigash alav. Ubakesh, he had the request that Benjamin would go. Let Benjamin go. Benjamin, be Adoni, please. Yudaber no, let me speak. Paro, you are like Pharaoh. Chashuv, you are like the king. The king, since that Paro, he put you over the whole land of Egypt, and without you, no one can live. This is Yehuda saying to Yosef, actually, this is what Paro said to Yosef, without you, no one will lift up his hand or his foot. No one's even going to go up on his horse unless you give the okay, Yosef. And especially that Paro was Moshe Bekipa. It says that Paro ruled the whole world. So Paro ruled the whole world, and Paro basically said, okay, you officially I'm going to be the king, but actually de facto you're the king. So Yosef was the king. And that, how does that hint at the future redemption? In the Asid level in the future, like it says in the Haftorah, it says that Yehuda, he'll be above. Oh, he'll be above Yosef. There'll be one king to all of them. And who's it going to be? King David. King David is going to be the ruler of all of them. How can we understand what's the connection? How does this week's Torah hint at the coming of the Mashiach? You'll be surprised to see. Let's go. For humans, that we can understand what it says in the beginning of the Torah portion, connect that to the end of the Torah portion. Like we said before, not sof and the tchilasam is sof. We just had that in the Maimer. The beginning is found in the end, and the end is found in the beginning. Yeshnu sheichas, there's a special connection between the beginning and the end of the Torah portion. Also in this, we have to explain. In the end of our Torah portion, it says, right, our end of our Torah portion, it says, Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim be'eretz Goshen. It says that Israel, the Yaakov, his name was changed to Israel, and his sons are called Bnei Yisrael. The Yisrael, they said they lived in the land of Egypt, in land of Goshen, V'yachazubo, and they took possession of it, V'yifru v'yirbu moed, and they were very, very fertile and bountiful, successful. Shazem Maral Tok of Yaakov. This shows in the power of Yaakov and his sons, that even when they were in the land of Egypt, Shetachat Shlita Paro, that was under the rulership of Paro, the king of Egypt, Paro said, Tov Kol Oretz Mitzrayim Lechemu. He gave them everything. And according to his tzivayo, according to his command, Mekablim Haim Achuza B'Meitav Oretz, they got the most fertile part of Egypt. And even more, they made it more fertile. It was a big blessing. On the other hand, but Yigash love Yehuda. That's the end of this week's Torah portion. The beginning of this week's Torah portion is exactly the opposite. The Yigash love Yehuda, but Tchilas portion in the beginning, it shows that Yehuda and his brothers, they were Zekukim Litchanen Yosef. They had the beg. They were the lowest of the lows. The end of our Torah portion shows how they're the highest of the highest. Egypt ruled the whole world, and the top, the cream of the crop in Egypt were the Jews. The Jews, they owned the land, they were successful. They got the best part of Egypt. They saved the whole world. Yosef saved the whole entire world. It says even more when Yaakov came into Egypt, which was like 1 year, the second year of the famine, as he came in, the Nile River filled up again. Egypt doesn't live from rainwater, it lives from the Nile. And the Nile dried up. There was nothing. And when Yaakov came in, as the whole Nile went back up, Heyochehu, because Yosef, because he was okay. That's the end of the Torah portion. But in the beginning, all of the tribes, they were like slaves. They were the lowest of the low. They had to grovel and beg to Yosef, and they thought that Yosef was not Jewish. They didn't know that Yosef was their brother. Heyoshu Balabaya. Yosef was he was the actual ruler over the whole land of Egypt. Lifnei Shidvada Yosef Elacha, before Yosef confessed to his brothers. He revealed his identity. But, okay, so what do we see? That the beginning of this week's Torah portion is the opposite of the end of this week's Torah portion. And it's also the opposite of what's going to be in the future redemption. The beginning of this week's Torah portion, the brothers are abject servants. They have no power whatsoever. They're the lowest of the low, the weakest of the weak. Yehuda begs to Yosef, please listen to reason. He's also threatens them also later, but it's not. Please listen to reason. They're the lowest of the low. The end of this week's Torah portion, the Jews are sitting high. They're the highest of the world. And for sure, in the time of the Moshiach, it says that Yosef isn't going to be the king. The king is going to be Yehuda. Instead of being the lowest, he's going to be the highest. Exactly the opposite. Okay, so why is it? So what can we learn from the beginning? What can we learn from the beginning of this week's Torah portion? Let's see. Oh, here we go. Let's do it. The explanation is like this. Even though Shabash Kappa Rishon, at the first glance, it appears Nira Shagashesh Yehuda Yosef that the Yehuda went to Yosef. Mevatet, this shows the power of Yosef, because Yosef, he was the king of Egypt. And how Yehuda was dependent on Yosef, his every word, his every movement. But if you think about it a little bit, Ro'im, you see that Yehuda itnaeg kan betokef harachava. That we see that Yehuda really, he was the ruler. He conducted himself with a power and with a bright, how do you say, with a wideness, an unlimitedness, unbridled. Yotzim min ha'klal. Yosef was then, he was like the viceroy, he was the leader of the whole country, the whole world. Like Paro said to him, that only with your go-ahead, with your say-so, can anybody do anything in the land of Egypt, right? They can't raise up their hand or even their foot. Ubefrat, and especially Paro was then Moshe Bekipa. He ruled the world. And Yosef was Kamocha Kaparo, he was the ruler of the world. Limarodzot, nevertheless, we see that Yehuda, without knowing, he didn't know that this was his brother. He thought that the man sitting in front of him was a non-Jew, an Egyptian, that was being very strict with him and had all the power. He was surrounded by soldiers. He was he was in the palace of Yosef. Nevertheless, we see that Yehuda threw all caution to the wind. He was not affected by this at all. And he acted with all of, how do you say, unlimited. He was not restrained at all. He didn't even ask first for Yosef. Vayigash, I love Yosef. He didn't first of all say, excuse me, can I approach you? He approached. It says Vayigash, that's the first word of the Torah portion. And it says that he came powerfully. Afterwards, he said that he spoke severe words. He spoke powerful words to Yosef. And therefore, who we've here, al yecharapcha. He said, please don't get angry at me. Why would Yosef get angry? He's coming and begging. Don't get angry. Don't get angry because I'm saying words that would make a normal person angry. Even though the Yehuda, Yosef could have just said, right, off with his head. He didn't know who Yosef was. He didn't know it was his brother. Yosef could have done because of his chutzpah. So it comes out that Yigash love Yehuda, that which Yehuda, he approached Yosef without permission, and he approached in the most confrontational way. This shows Davka the power of Yehuda. Al-Pizeh, according to this, now we can understand the connection between Vayigash Elav Yehuda to the power, the certainty of the Jewish people in the land of Israel in the end of the Torah portion. The end of this week's Torah portion, it says the Jewish people, they lived in Eretz Mitzrayim, Eretz Goshen, and they took possession of it, and they were very, very successful. And also what it says in the Haftorah, that David, my servant, David, he is going to be the king for them forever. And this is going to be like the Tokef was Vayigash of Yehuda. So what do we see? That before we thought, just a couple of minutes ago, we thought the beginning of the Torah portion shows the weakness and the lowness and the helplessness of Yehuda and his brothers to Yosef. Yosef was the king. But completely unlike the end of this week's Torah portion, and also the Haftorah, which hints at the future redemption. In the end of this week's Torah portion, we see the Jews were the top of Egypt, right? They were subservient to no one. And in the Haftorah, it says that Yehuda is going to be the king above. So it seems to be two opposites. Says the Rebbe, it's not the opposite. Vayiga shows the hidden power, which is inside of every single Jew, to powerfully demand and to change the whole entire world. Even the whole entire world seems to be against us. Like Yosef seemed to be against Yehuda. Yesh Lomo, we can say the tokef, that this power, this assertiveness, Vayigash of Yehuda, this gave the power that afterwards Yaakov and his sons could go down to Egypt in such a way that not only they would not be under the influence of Egypt, and they wouldn't be under the control of Egypt, but even more, that they took possession of their place in Egypt, and they were very successful, more successful than the Egyptians. Even more, this is the preparation which will bring to Vidor David. Hello, David Avdi, that David, my servant, will be a leader for them forever. This was the preparation for the power and the assertiveness of the Melech Moshiach, which is going to be also from Yehuda, to rule over the whole entire world, to convince the whole entire world to only serve the creator of the universe. The power comes from this week's Torah portion, as we're going to learn, God willing, more tomorrow. Now let's do the Yom Yom.